I think that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is an exceptionally well-designed game, but I don't think that any game is without its faults. For me, one of the bigger faults in 5th edition is the relative lack of class options for any given character. There are only 13 official classes. 14 is kind of 1 foot on the court, 1 foot off the court, being the Blood Hunter. But I think that it really could be improved by creating more options there. Subclasses create a good deal of variety between instances of the same class, but there are so many circumstances that I think should be in the game that aren't covered by any classes or any subclasses. This can at times be remedied by a number of subclasses, as I've done many times in the past myself. But others just are a bit kind of outside the scope of what is currently possible in 5th edition. And that is what I hope to solve today. Today I'm going to be talking about a class idea that I've had recently that I think would really bring something new to 5th edition. I think it's something that really would work with the game in interesting ways and could fix a lot of the problems that I've had with it in the past. Hi everybody, my name is Quinn the GM. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy this, be sure to leave a like. Let me know what you think of this class idea in the comments, and yeah, let's jump into it. I have 2 main issues with the classes of 5th edition as they presently stand, and both of those issues will be addressed by this new class. Firstly, I feel like martials are way too overlooked in the current state of 5e. There are 4 dedicated martial classes out of the 13 official classes we have, meaning that the vast majority are casters in some capacity. Those 4 classes, the barbarian, the monk, the fighter, and the rogue, are all good in their own right, though the latter 2 have dedicated casting subclasses of their own. Furthermore, casters seem to get a lot more support when a given book comes out. Books are much more often able to have spells as compared to having things like maneuvers. The only time we've gotten new maneuvers has been in Tasha's, whereas I can't count the number of books that have had new spells of some description in them. This can also be solved by adding weapons or something, but I'm going to solve that in a different way for this new subclass. Additionally, I feel like ability score focus is way too over-centralized. There is way too much focus on charisma generally, especially for casters, and I feel like especially intelligence is way too overlooked, and that is another thing that I'm going to fix with this class in particular. Let's get into the main ideas of the class itself. I will warn you, these are still a tad nebulous, as I am very much in the early planning stages of what I think this class should be, but I do still have enough of a defined idea and enough excitement that I wanted to make this video for you to showcase these thoughts, because I think that other people might resonate with this idea as well. So, the main idea for this class and its title is going to be called the Triage. I initially had Battlefield Medic, but no class in 5th edition is official. Blood Hunter isn't official, has 2 words for their title. So I thought that Triage communicated the Battlefield Medic idea well enough on its own, as well being an underused word that I just kind of like. It'll be a class that focuses on 2 ability scores, those being Intelligence as its primary score, which in itself is something that I've wanted quite a bit lately. I want a martial class that is focused on a mental ability score as its primary thing in use. And I also think it'll focus on dexterity. It'll get saving throw proficiencies in both of those things as well. One of those being fairly useless. Intelligence saves don't come off that often, but dexterity saves are quite useful. This is going to be an entirely martial class. I could also see it having a subclass that has casting options for players who would want that, but that wouldn't be the main focus of the class by any means. And furthermore, I think that it will have a D10 hit dice and proficiency in light armor. This way I can kind of balance the tankiness with having more hit points if fewer armor class in order to kind of create a better system of balance there. As I think there aren't enough classes in 5th edition as it is with a D10 hit dice, and I'm excited to provide more of that. So the main idea of this class is a healer without spell slots, somebody who's able to use natural remedies and actual medicine in order to aid their allies rather than helping them with magic. My main thought for how to do this could be limited in 2 ways. I think that uses of abilities could be limited either to a certain number of times per individual per rest, particularly that, say, you could heal your particular ally, the paladin, 4 times with your bandages or your salves or something, instead of just infinite as long as you have spell slots, particularly because my thought is you can only dress a wound so many times and have it still work. This number could increase the number of times as you level up in the class, but I think that having that limit there initially could still be quite useful. Furthermore, it could also be limited by something similar to superiority die, which leads me into my main idea for the class itself. I think that it should have maneuvers similar to the Battle Master, but all focused on healing and defensive and support options for your team. I think that would really allow for a really unique playstyle. I think that things like Battle Master maneuvers should just be more prevalent in 5th edition in general because they're really fun and really potentially powerful. And I think that if applied to this class and if new healing options were added, and essentially they were reflavored for that kind of medicinal flavor regardless, I think that could really add a lot of interesting depth to this class. The other core idea I had for this class was their use of hit dice. I thought that it would be cool to have a character that allows other characters in their party to use their hit dice in interesting and unique ways. I think that maybe using them for things like giving them temporary hit points or using it as an inspiration dice or bonuses on skill checks, something like that could add a really unique flavor to this class, particularly giving it something that no other class in the game is really able to do. Wizards has also been leaning into more kind of weird uses for hit dice lately, and I think that this could really fit in well with that. I think that it would really lend more to that ability, and it would be cool to have a class actually focus on that core concept rather than just having it as a peripheral thing for certain subclasses. So the main reason I want to make this class is really that I often find myself really struck by characters who are not magical in worlds that are. In D&D, at least in the campaigns that I've tended to run, it's a very magical world. I wouldn't call it high magic by any means, but it is, I'd say, high-medium magic. And I find that the characters that tend to interest me the most are the ones who are not as proficient or not at all proficient in abilities that are so prevalent in this world. People who aren't able to cast spells, people who just choose not to, people who do that tend to be a lot more interesting, and their reasoning for doing so tends to be a lot more interesting as well. I think that any character that is just a sword in a land full of wands can be quite intriguing, and I think that adding that medical aspect to things could further make for more interesting character work when compared to clerics that might also be in the party or in the world. I didn't really know that I had the desire to have a class that is martial and focused on a mental ability score until I played Pathfinder 2nd edition for the first time, particularly because the investigator class there is so cool and so great in roleplay and can lend so much to even combat situations while still being focused entirely on their intelligence with the dexterity as a supplement. I think that that really creates interesting character dynamics and can create a character with very different set of strengths than martial characters typically have in Dungeons & Dragons at present, where they tend to be very much focused on combat situations. I could see the triage being focused on both roleplay and combat in equal measure. In terms of subclass ideas, I already mentioned that there could be one that's a caster. My other thought is there could be one that's a poisoner of some sort, something that kind of takes these medical things and uses them for harm in order to debuff enemies rather than heal and buff allies. And furthermore, I think there's also room for one that just kind of leans into it even further. Something like the champion fighter that just makes a fighter but more. Something that makes a triage but more. My main idea with this video is just to gauge people's interest, see if you guys would want to see a class like this made from me. This would be a big step for me. I've only ever made subclasses, spells, items when publishing stuff for 5e before. I've never designed a full class, but I'd be really excited to try it. And I really wanted to kind of pitch my idea for this class before really taking a swing at it. So yeah, if you'd want to see me make this class, be sure to let me know in the comments, leave a like. Subscribing also really helps the channel. I'd love to make more videos like this for you guys, especially if I were to make this class, so that I'll be able to update my progress, stuff like that. Yeah, so that's my main thoughts here. If you enjoyed this, like I said, be sure to leave a like. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, and I really look forward to potentially making this class that I'm really excited about. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day.